How's everybody doing? This is Anthony Beckford. Real quick, I want to educate y'all on my housing justice bill, on basically the key points of that bill, so that way you can understand where I'm coming from, why it's needed, and the protections that it basically gives us, as tenants, homeowners, and so forth. Okay. As you see the files right here, Brooklyn Progressive Alliance, Real Democracy for the People, which is something that I created. So I'm just gonna get into it real quick. It's for this is the pledge here for the housing groups, advocates, and also tenants and homeowners. I also have one that's for the elected officials and candidates for the upcoming elections too. So that way they can show us that they align with us and not with the corporations, not with Real Estate Board of New York, not with the special PACs, and not with, their fellow corrupt elected officials. There we go. New York is going through a housing crisis that's displaced hundreds of thousands of people. Gentrification has been said to be inevitable, which is not true. When a problem is man-made, that means that there can be a solution. The problem with gentrification is that it is a weaponized tool used to displace mainly black and brown communities. Children are forced into repetitive cycles of trauma through the allowance of mass displacements, which is equal to genocide. You basically say this is real estate genocide, housing genocide. Seniors are being targeted and are tricked out of their homes. Tenants are being illegally evicted, and elected officials have given lip service, but there has been little to no action to provide an absolute solution to the housing crisis. Elected officials are taking in record-breaking donations from the Real Estate Board of New York and many real estate brokers and landlords throughout New York. And that is who they answer to. It is time for elected officials to start holding themselves accountable to the people and work diligently to solve the housing crisis. And the first step would be to endorse and take a pledge to support the Housing Justice Bill key points. We at Brooklyn Progressive Alliance, along with our founder, community advocate Anthony Beckford, will push to get this bill passed with all of these key points, and we hope that you, my fellow housing advocates, tenants, homeowners, and housing umbrella groups, will stand with us to make this happen. Your support and endorsement of the key points of the Housing Justice Bill is what will make it come into reality. We will be able to put the power back in the hands of tenants and homeowners and bring about true affordable housing to our communities. And this is the pledge. I pledge to stand up for tenants and homeowners. I pledge to fight for more true affordable housing and push for the implementation of the various key points of the Housing Justice Bill into law. And here are the key points, the Housing Justice Bill key points. Housing Justice Bill key points. Take preferential rent out of leases. Abolish MCIs, which are market capital improvements. You're basically, when they doing, a big renovation or you building or fixing like the main common area, something like that, they, fixing the elevator, they charge you this. And it's something that's continuous, on your lease. They never take that away once the debt is paid. So, but the fact that you're paying rent there, that should cover all the costs and repairs already. The money that these landlords are making, should cover the costs and repairs. So we're pushing for full abolishment of MCIs and IAIs. Implement rent rollbacks. New York has not had a rent rollback, I believe, since the 1970s. It is needed now. $2,200 a month, $1,800 a month, $1,500 a month for rent? No, it needs to be implemented. We need to go lower. We need to bring it down, make it more affordable for people so that way they don't have to choose between providing food on the tables or paying their rent. Let's think about that. Reopen back the Section 8 program. Abolish the Erstat law that weakens the rent regulation laws in favor of the landlord. Abolish vacancy bonuses. These landlords should not be receiving incentives for causing displacements. Require landlords to register their properties and legal rent with DHCR and penalize them for not doing so. That's where accountability comes in at. Landlords have 60 days to pay all outstanding violation fines. If there is non-payment, they will face increased penalty fees and or seizure of property. And of course, the seizure of property will be based on the fine amount. Any landlord that harasses, intimidates, or illegally evicts a tenant will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Accountability. Any developer or real estate broker that is found guilty of harassment, intimidation, or manipulation to take a deed to a house will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. They and any company affiliated with them and sub-owned by them will also be issued a stop work order on all properties they are involved in and will be given a permanent restraining order to stay away from certain communities where they have practiced their predatory tactics. Accountability as needed. Okay? And consequences. They need to feel consequences. Any landlord found guilty of illegally evicting their tenants will be sued by the tenant and must pay for any and all costs associated with the illegal eviction. Examples: lost wages, property damage, moving costs, first month's rent, and security deposit of new residents, any mental health counseling that is a result of predatory tactics, etc. Payments will be made immediately upon ruling of the judge, or the landlord will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Any landlord who has high levels of lead in their building, and due to their lack of resolution of this issue, any resident of the building is affected or even tests high for lead poisoning, which is still them being affected, will have their assets frozen, they will be fined, and they will be jailed. And they'll still be responsible for the cleanup. So that will come out of their profits and so forth like that. Any landlord that is jailed for their lack of services rendered, non-payment of fines, predatory taxes, etc., will be at risk of having their property seized by the city, and the city will then own and manage such properties, and the tenants will maintain their residency with no risk of eviction and will be granted all rights to a lease renewal. The city will also be held accountable for any lack of maintenance or any intimidation or any illegal evictions of said tenants as well. Accountability on all levels. Tenants who are part of scatter site housing will have the right, which is with the shelter system, will have the right to receive a lease from their landlord. And these are when they're putting them in, not in the hotels or in actual shelters, but they're putting them into buildings as well too, rent stabilized buildings and so forth like that. And Barry Hers, the corrupt slumlord Barry Hers, is an example of why I decided to put this portion into the key points. Tenants who are part of scatter site housing will have the right to receive a lease from their landlord if and when the landlord decides to end their involvement in the scatter site program. No tenant will be refused a lease and will have all rights for renewal of their leases. The current MIH is to be replaced with an MIH that will be based on a per zip code basis throughout New York City and New York State. So you're not going to tell me that you're going to base the average income that's here in East Flatbush and Flatbush off of income of all 5 boroughs, plus Hudson County, plus Suffolk County. Like, are you ridiculous? Plus Westchester County, are you ridiculous? No, our income is not their income is not our income. Okay? Simple as that. Anyway, let's move on. Landlords must start working on repairs within 48 hours of complaints. If a tenant brings their landlord to court for lack of repairs or for repairs that are not up to par for safe conditions, housing court must put in order for the landlord to do the repairs or correct the mistakes in repairs, and the tenants will have their rent reduced for that month until the repairs are completed. If a tenant withholds rent due to the lack of rent and or unsafe conditions, the housing court will order that the rent withheld does not have to be paid even after repairs are done. Okay? If landlords do not honor DHCR rent reductions based on lack of repairs or services in the buildings, they shall be fined the maximum amount in fines. Oh, this is one of my other favorites right here. Abolish 421A. No more tax breaks. No more tax breaks for these greedy, corrupt developers. If they're not willing to build up to 100% of affordable housing in the community, they don't get to come out here at all. Okay? Developers were required to provide 80% to 100% of their units at a rate based on the average income of the community where they are developing. Not that market rate crap. Because that market rate crap does not reflect the rates of the people that live in the community at all. Does not reflect what your paycheck, is when you get paid. Okay? Any developer that violates the privacy or rights of homeowners will be barred from developing and denied from purchasing any property within that community. And we're going to push it even further within that city, that borough, that city, that county. This penalty extends to all of their affiliates, partnerships, and sub-companies. So you accountability to the fullest. Gonna make them act right. Abolishment of the third-party transfer, aka the TPT program, that has been stealing the homes of black and brown people, which is a program underneath the city. And we're gonna make sure we abolish it. No freezing of it. No, it is to be eradicated. And last but not least, close all rent regulation loopholes so our rent regulated tenants are protected. So that way more apartments can become rent regulated and there will be more protections for those tenants as well. So this is the Housing Justice Bill. Key points. The pledge. So when you see me walking around with black folder, that's because I need you, tenants, homeowners, my fellow advocates and community groups, tenant associations, to sign and date so that way we could push this legislation through, make it into law, and bring back the rights of tenants, bring back the protections of their rights. Okay? I got for the elected officials as well. I have a few elected officials who have signed, a few tenant organizations who have signed. They signed a single one because, I just had to email it out to them individually and, and they sent it out to me. But when you see me walking around with these black folders, stop me, come sign. Or when you see me walk up to you, you ain't know I'm about to have you sign. Also, I have an online petition going as well, too, for this pledge on change.org. I will put the link below in the description section of this video. And let's make sure that we fight, because housing is a human right. So shout out to all the housing groups out there. Shout out to Equality for Flatbush. Shout out to Met Council. Shout out to Flatbush Tenant Coalition. Shout out to FDC. Who else? MTOP. Who else we got out there? New York City Change. Citizens Action does some work in housing. Making the road. Make the road is making changes. In all the housing groups, Casa Bronx and so forth. So, let's make sure that we get this out there because the elected officials, they like to promise us things, but we have to make sure that we, the people, hold them accountable and make sure that they put in the laws, legislation, bills, and so forth like that represent our demands and our needs. All right. Enjoy your day.